bike, sir. Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days.
Who did this to you?
My daddy.
He'll pay.
Buy my bike, sir. Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days. The golden hour sun cast long shadows across the suburban street as the rumble of motorcycles echoed through the quiet neighborhood. A group of bikers, their leather vests adorned with patches and pins, rolled down the peaceful road, their engines purring like metallic beasts. Marcus, the leader of the Iron Brotherhood MC, raised his fist, signaling the group to slow down. Something had caught his eye, a small figure standing on the sidewalk ahead. As they approached, the bikers saw her, a little girl, no more than 8 years old, standing beside a pink bicycle with streamers on the handlebars. She held a cardboard sign with shaky letters that read, "For sale." Her dress was tattered and dirty, her hair tangled, and her feet were covered in worn boots that had seen better days. Behind her, partially hidden in the shadows, sat a woman in dark clothing, her head bowed, face obscured. Marcus killed his engine and dismounted, his boots hitting the pavement with a heavy thud. The other bikers followed suit, creating a semicircle around the scene. The little girl didn't flinch. Instead, she looked up at Marcus with eyes that held more pain than any child should ever know. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Marcus asked, his gruff voice softening as he knelt down to her level. "Emma," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "And what are you doing out here, Emma?" The girl glanced back at the woman behind her, then looked at Marcus with tears beginning to well in her eyes. "I'm selling my bike, sir," she said, her voice cracking. "Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. Behind him, he heard one of his brothers, Tommy, curse under his breath. Marcus studied the little girl's face, noticing the hollowness in her cheeks, the way her clothes hung loose on her small frame. "Where's your daddy, Emma?" Marcus asked gently. "He left," she said simply, as if that explanation was all there was to it. "He took everything, all the money, all the food, even Mommy's medicine." Marcus glanced at the woman again. She still hadn't moved, hadn't looked up. Something was wrong. "Is that your mommy?" he asked, nodding toward the figure. Emma nodded. "She's sick. She told me to stay here and sell my bike so we can buy food. She said someone nice would come." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He stood up and walked over to the woman, his heavy boots announcing each step. When he reached her, he could see she was trembling, her breathing shallow and labored. "Ma'am," Marcus said softly. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman lifted her head slowly, and Marcus saw a face worn by exhaustion and hunger. Her eyes were sunken, her lips pale. She tried to speak but only managed a weak whisper. "Please, help my daughter." Marcus immediately turned to his crew. "Tommy, call 911. Now. Jake, get some water and whatever food we've got. Sarah, come here." Sarah, one of the few women in their group, pushed forward. She was a nurse when she wasn't riding, and Marcus trusted her completely. "She's dehydrated and probably hypoglycemic," Sarah said after a quick examination. "We need to get her help fast." While they waited for the ambulance, Marcus turned back to Emma. "How much were you hoping to get for your bike, sweetheart?" "I don't know," Emma said, wiping her tears. "Enough for food, maybe $20? Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out several $100 bills. He knelt down again and pressed them into Emma's small hand. "Your bike is worth way more than that," he said with a gentle smile. "But I'll tell you what, you keep your bike, and you keep this money for your mom. Deal?" Emma stared at the money in disbelief, then at Marcus, then back at the money. "But I can't. This is too much." "Your bike's special," Marcus said. "Bikes like that, they're meant to be ridden, not sold. You keep riding it, okay? For your mom." The ambulance arrived moments later, and the paramedics quickly attended to Emma's mother. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, Emma climbed in beside her, clutching her mother's hand. "Wait," Marcus called out. He walked to the ambulance and looked at Emma. "Which hospital are you going to?" "Memorial," one of the paramedics answered. "We'll follow you," Marcus said. Then to Emma, "You're not alone anymore, kid. We've got you." At the hospital, the bikers waited in the lobby, drawing curious and sometimes nervous glances from other visitors, but they didn't care. They were there for Emma and her mother. After a couple of hours, a doctor emerged. "Are you family?" "We're friends," Marcus said firmly. "How is she?" The doctor sighed. "She's severely malnourished and dehydrated, but she's going to be okay. We're getting fluids into her now and starting her on a feeding protocol. The little girl is fine, just hungry. We've given her some food." "What about long-term?" Marcus asked. "What do they need?" The doctor hesitated, then lowered his voice. "Between you and me, they need everything. Stable housing, regular meals, probably some counseling for both of them. The mother told us her husband cleaned out their accounts and disappeared 3 weeks ago. She's been trying to make it work, but—" Marcus nodded. "We'll handle it." "Handle what, exactly?" "Whatever they need." Over the next few weeks, the Iron Brotherhood MC became Emma and her mother's unlikely guardian angels. They pooled their resources and found them a small apartment. They filled the fridge with food, paid the first 3 months' rent, and even organized a fundraiser at their clubhouse that brought in enough money to keep them stable for half a year. But more than the financial support, they gave Emma and her mother something they'd lost: hope. Emma's mother, whose name was Jennifer, slowly recovered her strength. She found a job at a local diner, and with the support of the bikers, she began to rebuild their lives. Marcus became a regular visitor, checking in on them, making sure they had everything they needed. Emma started calling him Uncle Marcus, and he wore the title with pride. One Saturday afternoon, Marcus arrived at their apartment to find Emma outside, riding her pink bike in circles, her laughter filling the air. Jennifer stood on the small porch, watching her daughter with tears of joy in her eyes. "Thank you," she said when Marcus approached. "I don't know how to ever repay you." "You don't repay kindness," Marcus said, watching Emma ride. "You pass it on." Jennifer smiled. "She asks about you every day, you know. She thinks you're a superhero." Marcus chuckled. "Just a guy who happened to be in the right place at the right time." "No," Jennifer said firmly. "You're more than that. You saw us when everyone else just drove by. You cared when no one else did." Emma skidded to a stop in front of them, breathing hard but grinning from ear to ear. "Uncle Marcus, watch this." She proceeded to ride in a tight figure eight, her tongue sticking out in concentration. When she finished, she looked at Marcus expectantly. "That was perfect, kiddo," he said, giving her a high five. Emma beamed with pride. Then her expression turned serious. "Uncle Marcus, yeah? I'm glad you bought my bike." Marcus smiled. "I didn't buy your bike, Emma. I just reminded you how much it was worth." Months later, at the Iron Brotherhood's annual charity ride, Emma and Jennifer were guests of honor. Emma rode alongside the bikers on her pink bike, decorated now with streamers and cards from all the members of the MC. As they rode through the streets, raising money for families in crisis, Marcus looked over at Emma, her face filled with joy, and he realized something profound. Sometimes the best thing you can do in life is stop when everyone else keeps going. Sometimes kindness is the most rebellious thing you can offer in a world that's forgotten how to care. And sometimes, a little girl selling a bike is really selling hope. And it's up to us to buy it back for her. The bikers learned that Emma's father had been gambling away their savings for months before he finally disappeared with what little remained. But they also learned that despite everything she'd been through, Emma never stopped believing that someone good would come. And in the end, she was right.